Hello, Journalism 314. Hey, thanks so much for checking in with us. Just want to give you an update on the rest of this portion, at least for the next couple of weeks of the class, what we're going to be doing. And then really when we get into October, we are going to be rocking and rolling on our project. So what I want to do today is go over kind of building your PR plan. We've started a little bit with the research that you've done on some of the media outlets, and that's a good start. We're going to be taking that, what you've already done, and we're going to be building on it. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about just how you put together your PR plan, to give you a little guidance about how we're going to be doing this after fall break. Speaking of fall break, I know that I flipped around a couple of the dates that if you check the syllabus, I slipped in the stats last week with Jenna just to have her talk about her work in stats and the stat world and how you get better. So to flip that, when we come back from fall break and from the midterm, I'm going to be moving down what we were supposed to be talking about last week. I'm going to be moving down news conference, and we're going to be doing that just because it makes a little more sense that once we get back after the midterm and after the fall break, then we're going to be right in the middle of putting together this PR plan. So it makes a little more sense to have information and tips on putting together a news conference so we can just go bam, 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 and put all that together in your plan for the LPGA event. So what I want to do today, first of all, I just mentioned briefly the midterm. The midterm is going to be a significant portion of your percentage of your final grade. If you check out the syllabus, you will see that. And what the midterm is going to be, I'm going to be putting in 10 questions about our client, which is the LPGA and the Kroger Queen City Championship presented by P&G. And obviously it's going to be an open book test, so you can certainly do any kind of research that you want. But it's going to be 10 questions about our client, and then there's going to be a writing component as well. You'll be writing a news release that has something to do with our event. So that is going to be the midterm. What I am going to do is I am going to post that on Wednesday morning. So it'll be a week from today. I'm going to post it Wednesday morning, and I want it back to me. Again, email it to betsy.ross@bsu.edu. Email it to me by the end of next week. So you'll have it Wednesday next week, and then I want it back on Friday. So it basically gives you 48 hours to complete it. It's not heavy lifting. Obviously, again, open book. You'll get to research all the questions. But again, it's a way to learn more about our client. You really can't be a good PR person unless you know about your client. So that will be next week is the midterm. And then the week after that is fall break. So we will not have a class that week. So we will be back chatting again the week of October 18 on the syllabus. That's stat taking. Going to flip that on the week of the 18th. We're going to be talking about putting together a news conference. Do you really need to? If you do, what do you do? And then we'll go right into putting together your public relations plan for our client, the Queen City Championship. So that's a quick review of what we're going to be doing here in the next couple of weeks. Again, if you have any questions, just drop me an email at betsy.ross@bsu.edu. Today, overall look at your public relations plan, what it needs to look like, how you put it together, what you need to include. We've touched a little bit on this, but this is more of a nuts and bolts, step by step, what you need to do for your public relations plan. The public relations plan, yes, they are set in stone, but not necessarily. And I hesitate on that just because it's one of these things that you want to have a plan. You want to walk into the room and have a public relations plan. That plan can change. That plan can change overnight. In this world, the way that things have gone this last year, you know how things can change overnight. To give you an idea, and we will talk about this, will be one of our The final lectures that we'll be talking about in the public relations plan is your crisis plan. You put together a crisis plan. You hope you never have to use it. But there have been a lot of crisis plans that have come off the shelves over the last 18 months that no one thought that they would ever use. Things change. So you walk in with a public relations plan. It's not set in stone. It can always be changed. So just always think about that there is an opportunity, things can change. So never forget that. Public relations plan. First off, what is your objective? As we talked about, who's your audience? How do you reach them? Your objective here is to inform the public of a new LPGA event that we're going to have in Cincinnati. Your objective is to raise awareness for possible sponsorship partners. Yes, we have Kroger and P&G both as title sponsors, but there's always room for more sponsors. So raise awareness so people know the value of this event. Obviously, to sell tickets, that's what you want to do. To use past LPGA events in Cincinnati to have a warm and fuzzy feeling about this event. If you have done your research, and I know that many of you have, you know that there is a long history of the LPGA, both with LPGA commissioners. There have been 3 LPGA commissioners from Cincinnati, as well as the LPGA Championship here in Cincinnati. So there's a long history of the LPGA being here in Cincinnati. To create a positive perception of the event, you want people to welcome it and not see it as an annoyance or I can't play Kenwood Country Club because the girls are playing. You want it to look positive, to raise the profile of Greater Cincinnati as a big league city, and to increase travel, tourism, hospitality. Remember that this can mean millions of dollars in economic impact in this area. And especially in a time where it has been really thin with travel and tourism over the last 18 months, this is an opportunity to really boost the travel and tourism business. So what are your public relations goals? Who's your audience? How do you reach them? Who do you want to reach? A lot of that will determine how you will reach them. If you look at demographics in golf are older. They skew older. They skew on the wealthy side. So if you're trying to reach an older audience, are you going to get them on TikTok? Not necessarily. Are you going to get them on Facebook? The chances are greater. You may not use Facebook, but grandma and grandpa might. And that is the age group that we're looking at for the LPGA, an older audience, a wealthier audience. So think about some of the ways that you reach that older audience. What is your key message? That the LPGA is back, that the LPGA is a global sports entity, that the LPGA has some of the brightest young stars in American sports as well as around the world. Your key messages can include it's family friendly. The players are accessible. There are so many messages that the LPGA looks to promote. And if you go to the LPGA.com website, you will see some of those. Again, we will get into the nuts and bolts of that as we go, when we talk about demographics, when we talk about who we're trying to reach, when we talk about the talking points that we can use for the LPGA. We'll all get to that when we get into October and really start honing down on this. So key messages, there's more than one. And remember that it's not just sports. Yes, it is a sport. Yes, it is a big sporting event, but there are so many other tentacles going on. If you're familiar with the PGA Tour at all, you know the Waste Management Open in Phoenix is nothing but a big party. If you are familiar with the Torrey Pines stop in San Diego, it's a big party with concerts every night, with fashion shows. And oh, by the way, there happens to be golf played. This is what we're going toward, because any research will tell you, doesn't mean that I agree with it, but research will tell you that 10 to 15% of your media consumers out there are hardcore sports fans, the Sports Center watchers, the Golf Channel watchers. I don't necessarily believe that, but that's kind of what research says. My argument is, well, if only 10 to 15% of the people out there are interested in sports, then why, when the Colts go to the playoffs or the Bengals go to the playoffs, that it's your lead story? Well, you know, then it becomes a community story. Then it becomes news. Well, I'm not sure I buy that. However, research says 10 to 15% of your audience out there are sports followers. If you get 10 to 15% of the people in this area looking at the LPGA event, and maybe a fraction of those would actually attend the LPGA event, that's really not enough to be sustainable. You really needed to bring in more people. So you have concerts and you have fashion shows and you have other things going on. Yes, I did say that overall, the demographic that goes to sporting events, to golf events, the demographic that goes to golf events are older and they are wealthier. But golf, just like everybody else, is trying to grow its audience. And you do that by having younger fans come in. How do you bring in younger fans? Well, you have a concert. Well, you have a DJ. Well, you have a party. Well, you have a wine tasting. You have other things to bring in that younger demographic because you want to grow that audience. Yes, your older demographic is your loyal demographic, but frankly, they age out and they stop coming to events. So this is what you have to think of. We want to reach that younger audience to grow the audience, to grow a fan base. So which media platforms will you use? I already mentioned, if you're reaching an older demographic, you're going to go to Facebook. You're going to go to the traditional media. You're going to have a story in the newspaper. If you want to reach that younger audience, you're not necessarily going to be promoting the golf, but you're going to be promoting the concert on Friday night. You're going to be promoting the wine tasting on Thursday afternoon before play starts. So what media platforms will you use? There's going to be a mix of traditional and social. And how will you use it? News release, you'll never get away from that. That's always the basis of everything you do in public relations. But you can have a pop-up event. You can partner with LPGA players to have a clinic. 2 weeks ago, I talked about the pop-up event that the All-Star Game had in Cincinnati in 2015. They had a vending machine. They had a pop-up vending machine. It was just there on Fountain Square. The only way that they promoted it was through social media. So you can have pop-up events. You can have all kinds of different things like that. But just think about how you're going to promote it. So your media list that you've already started now, your media list is gold. It takes a lot of research to put together that media list, as you probably already found out. It needs to be updated on a regular basis because people in media take other jobs and their jobs get cut and they move to another place. And so you have to keep that media list important and right up there with the outlets that you're going to reach. How are you going to reach them? Your media list has to be updated all the time. And you just can't say, oh, okay, I'm going to send a news release to the Indianapolis Star. All right, who are you going to send it to at the Indianapolis Star? You have to know who would cover golf. Are you going to send it to Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star? If it's maybe a feature story, if you want a feature story on a player, maybe. But Greg Doyle is a columnist. He doesn't go out and necessarily covers day to day. He's a columnist. Here in town in Cincinnati, Hal McCoy has been a baseball writer forever. But you wouldn't send your LPGA release to Hal McCoy because he's a baseball writer. So you have to do a little digging to find out who just might be covering this. You have to do a little digging. You just can't say, oh, I'm going to send it to the Indianapolis Star and their news desk. No, it has to be to a specific person on how you're going to send that. Why is a media list important? It defines your target audience, gives you a living, breathing person with whom you can have a relationship. Because public relations is sales, and sales is relationships. Public relations is selling your idea of a story to a reporter. Sales is a relationship. Public relations is a relationship. You can't have a relationship with an anonymous person on the desk. You have to find that person, find their email, and most outlets are pretty darn good about listing emails for their staff and things like that. Get their Twitter handle, whatever you need, specific person that you think is going to cover this. Traditional outlets, newspaper, TV, again, those are pretty good about listing contacts. Don't forget influencers, bloggers. There's a whole bunch of golf bloggers out there. Some of them lean toward the fashion, but hey, I don't care. Social media channels. See who's on social media that actually covers it. And again, we're talking not just local in Greater Cincinnati, where your list is going to be, but you're also going to be talking about national. As we said, the LPGA is a global entity. It's a national story to have the LPGA in Greater Cincinnati. So think about your national contacts as well. What are your opportunities for coverage? Press releases, press conferences, a media tour. We've already had the kickoff press conference that I showed you a little bit of a clip of earlier this month. Interviews. Again, don't forget, it's not just a sports story, but it's an economic impact story. So you can, as part of your public relations schedule, you can do an interview. You can do a Zoom interview with the head of tourism for Hamilton County, Greater Cincinnati CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau. And you can do an interview with that person and have her talk about, oh, this is a great economic impact for the north end of Cincinnati and hotels and restaurants and blah, blah, blah. It's not just a sports story, it's an economic impact story. And all these interviews should include podcasters as well as traditional media. Send links to them. Let them be included in those. And then do stunts. I always say a stunt event is very similar to Notre Dame Shamrock Series. Could they have played Wisconsin last weekend, either at Camp Randall or at Notre Dame Stadium? Absolutely. But this is a game that was supposed to be played last year in Green Bay. It was supposed to be at Lambeau Field. Obviously, it got canceled, so they moved it to Soldier Field. It's a bit of a gimmick to play a college game at Soldier Field, the home of the Chicago Bears. It's also a great recruiting for both teams, for both Wisconsin and Notre Dame, to be in Chicago because both schools recruit heavily out of Chicago. But it's a bit of a stunt game. It's a bit of a gimmick game. It's like the New Year's Day NHL outdoor game that they have somewhere. They've had it at Wrigley Field. They've had it in California. It's a bit of a stunt. It's a bit of a gimmick, but you watch because it's hockey and it's outdoors and it's kind of fun to watch. And so you can do a stunt promotional event. You can have the mayor buy the first LPGA tickets. You can have a long drive contest. We have the Ohio River right outside our door. Let's have a long drive contest and see if somebody can drive it on the other side of the Ohio River. Just anything like that to bring attention to your event before you get to the event. Remember, this public relations plan is not just for the week of the LPGA Championship, the Queen City Championship. This leads up. This leads up from now until next September, when that championship is going to be held. So you create a promotional schedule, and it can be a physical calendar. If you're a visual person like I am, I put a calendar, an old-fashioned calendar, up on the wall, and I write it in so I can see what I'm scheduled to talk about this week. It's not that hard, but and it doesn't have to be that often, but do it on a regular basis. Any of you who are on social media, you know that the trick to social media and getting followers is to post on a regular basis. If you do a blog, just post on a regular basis. You get a following that way, you go up in the Google searches that way. Do it on a regular basis, including social media posts. An LPGA event in September can include the player field reveal when we get closer, early bird ticket package. I always like using the holidays. Hey, a perfect gift for the golf fan in your family. Buy a package of tickets to the LPGA newest event, the Kroger Queen City Championship, presented by P&G. Early bird ticket packages, sponsor announcements. Again, we've already said Kroger and P&G, but you're going to need a sponsor for the Pro-Am, the concerts, and things like that. Anytime you get a big sponsor, you make an announcement. It makes them feel good. And again, it shows the rest of your potential sponsors that, hey, this is a big deal. This is a big party. You need to be part of it. You know, it's FOMO. It's fear of missing out. You know, if Kroger and P&G are in on it, if I'm another sponsor, I'm going, ooh, they're like big sponsors. Maybe I need to get into this as well. So major sponsor announcements. Diversity Leadership Summit. Remember, part of this championship is that there will be a Diversity Leadership Summit connected with this event, just to bring in women, coach them up on starting a business, having a business, personal financial responsibilities, things like that. And again, don't forget your regional and national outlets. The Golf Channel is going to be the home for this event. So anything that you do, you want to include the Golf Channel with your releases, with anything that you do. You can even do a Zoom interview with a Golf Channel host. Invite your local media to be part of that Zoom interview and ask questions. Why not? This is what we do with the Western and Southern Open. The Western and Southern Open in Mason, Ohio, just north of downtown Cincinnati, is a tier 1 event for both the WTA, the Women's Tennis Association, and the men's tour. It's a combined event. Not that many tennis events that aren't majors have both men and women competing at the same time, at the same venue, during the same week. Western and Southern Open does. So here's how we build anticipation for the Western and Southern Open. It's held in mid-August. So what we do is first, we unveil the field. Here is who has committed to playing, and this will come out maybe a month before. So 11 past champions headline 2021 Western and Southern Open singles fields. So we will reveal this list a month before. So if someone is a Djokovic fan or a Rafa fan or a Federer fan, they go, oh, they're coming. Oh, that's great. I need to get my tickets now. Unfortunately, those 3 didn't show up, injuries, blah, 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 blah. But hey, they had signed up. And so we announced that they had signed up. They withdrew a couple of weeks later, but we kicked it off with the announcement. Again, building anticipation, letting people know, hey, this is coming up and you're going to see some of your favorites. Same way with this. There's always wild cards that are given out. And two of the wild cards for qualifying went to a couple of local players. Another wild card for the main draw was given to Katie McNally, again, a local player. But that builds anticipation, especially in the local tennis scenes, that, oh, hey, I know JJ. You know, my kid plays against JJ. I'm going to go get tickets to see him in the qualifying round. There's always a qualifier for an LPGA event, just like a PGA Tour event. And the LPGA usually gives a local amateur, maybe one of the better college players here, an opportunity to play in the field. They always do. Again, you want to build local following, and you want to anticipate that people here in this area will want to come. So that's part of our public relations schedule on, you know, how we're going to pulse out this information. You know, we pulse out, here's our player field, mid-July. A week later, we announce, here are your wild cards, and they're local. A week later, we'll have this, the Barrett Cancer Center donation. Every event has a charitable component. Every event. Western and Southern Open, longtime supporter of the Children's Hospital, the Barrett Cancer Center, both here in Cincinnati. This is an announcement about the Barrett Cancer Center $100,000 donation. Now, this release we sent out into December, more than 6 months before the event. But as a year-end announcement, we said all the money that we raised goes to these donations. So, and again, this isn't random that we sent this out in December. It's another reminder that, oh, Western and Southern is coming back to Cincinnati in 2021. I must get my tickets. What a great holiday gift. It's not random that we sent this out in December. We sent it out in December. So again, the Western and Southern Open is top of mind. And then we hope that people will buy tickets for it. So all these are scheduled strategically. You know, that's the thing about social media and companies. Companies look at social media, and it's one of these things like the way that websites were 20 years ago. Everybody knew that they wanted a website, but they didn't know what to put on it. Social media is like that with a lot of companies. Companies know that they need to get on social media, but they don't know what to do with it. And so they do like random posts on, you know, hey, we had a birthday party for one of our colleagues today. Say happy birthday to Charlene. Use it strategically. These posts that we made for Western and Southern Open, we made strategically so that this event is top of mind. People know that it's coming. And bottom line, buying tickets. Once you have done all of this, once you have gotten all your public relations out there, once it's in the news, once people are buzzing about it, you measure your results. We subscribe to 3 different media measuring services, and they tell us where certain articles and certain news stories have been, what social media outlets have had the most chatter about our event. We get solid numbers on who has been exposed to the LPGA Championship, the Queen City Championship, where they have been, how many times did they look at it? Is it trending on television? Is it trending on social? And your demographics. If you've played around with demographics at all in social media, you know that you can break down demographics. Especially Facebook is just so easy to break down the demographics. Who looked at what was your most important or your most popular post, and you know where they came from. I mean, it's easy. But we have 3 different monitoring companies that we use to get results. Because if Procter & Gamble and Kroger are spending a bunch of money, and they are, on this championship, they want to say, well, what are we getting for our money? Well, you can take these results to Kroger and P&G and say, here are the results. Here is the audience that you're reaching. Because remember, everything is based on who's your audience, how do you reach them? We use these monitoring companies to give that information to the sponsors, because the days of writing a check just to be charitable, oh, we need to get involved in women's sports, so we'll give them money. Those days are gone. Now a company just doesn't promote or just doesn't sponsor. They want results. They want to know where their money is going, how it's being spent. Is it being spent wisely? And if it's not, after their 3-year deal, they may not continue as a sponsor. If they can't see results of where their money is going, who is being reached by their sponsorship. Kroger, P&G has had a longstanding relationship with women's sports. They were very involved in the WNBA for years and years and years. So they have a history of being involved in women's sports. And Kroger is very into health, wellness, mindfulness, activity. So it fits their brand as well. So measure your results. How many queries for ticket packages? How many views on social media? How many stories have there been out there in television, in newspapers? Media reports will tell you who picked up the story, what the viewership and the readership was. And sponsors want to know that information. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of how to build that public relations plan that we're going to be putting together. The start is building that media list, which we started. We have started doing that. A lot of that, and I think I've mentioned it before, you're not going to send every release to everybody on your media list, because your media list, just like if you were involved in the SID office at Ball State, you've got a media list for the area media, for Indianapolis, for the Muncie area. You've got a media list for the MAC schools. You've got a media list for different outlets. You're not going to send every news release that you write to everybody. You're not going to do that. You're going to have different sections that you will send releases about sponsorships. Maybe you will send that to your regional media list. If you announce that Nancy Lopez is going to be the honorary chair of the Kroger Queen City Championship, that is worth national space. So you would send that release to a national audience, because anybody who knows anything about golf knows Nancy Lopez, and that's a big deal. So putting together your media list is a great start. So as we build on that and hang on to what you have done, that's kind of your basis. You'll build on that. I'm sure you will add more media contacts to that as we go on, and we will build our schedule from there. What we will do as you await, I'm sure with bated breath, the midterm that I will send out next week. What I want you to do is, I want you to, because I noticed that most of you, and it's not a bad thing because I didn't emphasize it 2 weeks ago. Most of you put down like Indianapolis Star, or you put down a Golf Channel. I want you to go through that media list one more time and put together a contact. I don't want it to say desk at Indianapolis Star, desk at Gannett. I want a person. I want a living, breathing person. Put down their email address. If they've got a Twitter handle, they probably do. Insta, whatever. Find specific contact information for specific people. for every outlet that you put on there. And again, don't forget about social media folks as well. There are a lot of people who follow the LPGA, and you can go onto the LPGA Twitter account, open it up, and see who all is following it. That gives you an idea of who might want to, you might want to include on that. I am not above poaching other people's contact list, because it's not poaching, it's just sharing the word. They're interested in it, so we're just helping them find out more about this great event. So to wrap it up, take your media list, find out living, breathing people, get at the least get an email address for them. I wouldn't mind having email address plus Twitter, maybe Insta. From that, we will build, when we come back after the fall break and everything, we will start building specific calendar notations on when things are going to be released. And hopefully I can give you an update on what the Queen City Championship actually is doing. We have just signed our deal to continue the PR for the Queen City Championship here. We're very excited about working with a group out of New York to plan it. And so, I may even have a real live update for you about what we are doing, and to give you more of an idea of what to put into your schedule. So remember, the midterm is a significant portion of your final grade. It'll be up a week from Wednesday, a week from today. You'll have until the following Friday to send it back to me at betsy.ross@bsu.edu. After that, fall break, please enjoy it. And then after that, we will jump into our first real significant portion of what you're going to be putting into your public relations plan, which will be the news conference. Do you want one? If you do, how do you put it together? So we will do them. So midterm comes up a week from Wednesday. Fill it out, send it back, enjoy your fall break, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.